Welcome to Earth Commons Sunday. We're glad to see all of you here this morning. Welcome to everybody who has made the shower ministry, Westport Showers, happen this morning. Thank you. Thank you who've been here to participate in Westport Showers. We're going to begin our service today by invoking the spirit of Fred Culver, who on the night the church burned down, called me right away and said, "I didn't do it." This is a beautiful poem of Fred's. It's responsive, so you participate in it. Earth, our home, rising above its moon, delights and inspires everyone who sees it from space against intense cosmic black. No words express the urge to care for this tiny, fragile planet. Experiencing the world as one awakens a new consciousness. Instead of boundaries of fear, a world celebrating diversity is beginning to dawn. Let's create community based on the indescribable beauty of the earth. And on the tremendous freedom of the human spirit. Your hymn is in here.
Children
Please be seated. Please join me in a responsive call to confession and commitment for this Earth Common Sunday. We have forgotten who we are. We have alienated ourselves from the unfolding of the cosmos. We've become estranged from the movements of the earth. We've turned our backs on the cycles of life.
We have forgotten who we are. We have sought only for our own security. We have exploited simply for our own needs. We have distorted our knowledge. We have abused our power.
We have forgotten who we are. Now the land is barren, and the waters are poisoned, and the air is polluted.
We have forgotten who we are. Now the forests are dying, and the creatures are disappearing, and humans are despairing.
We ask forgiveness.
We ask for the gift of remembering.
We ask for the power to change.
We have forgotten who we are.
And now a unison reassurance of a way of grace beyond the ruined space. This is a quote from a beautiful children's book. Join with me. A leaf is a boat for a beetle. A rock is an island
For a frog. A turtle makes a bridge from a log.
A branch is an owl's point of view. A forest is a family for a tree. The earth is a home for you and for me. Mysterious Creator, let it be. We now turn to page 595 in the Glory to God hymnal. It's fairly simple, so you don't have to have it in front of you. You can just kind of join in with all of us. We have a single reading from the Bible this morning. This is Psalm 65, which has a earth-caring, earth-keeping theme. I'm going to read again from the Message Bible translation of it, a contemporary translation, a great one by the late Reverend Eugene Peterson, a Presbyterian minister who really took this work seriously. Silence is praise to you, God, and also obedience. You hear the prayer in it all. We all arrive at your doorstep sooner or later, loaded with guilt. Our sin's too much for us, but you get rid of them once and for all. Blessed are the chosen. Blessed the guest at home in your place. We expect our fill of good things in your house, your heavenly manse. All your salvation wonders are on display in your trophy room. Earth tamer, ocean pourer, mountain maker, hill dresser, muzzler of sea storm and wave crash of mobs in noisy riot. Far and wide they'll come to a stop. They'll stare in awe and wonder. Dawn and dusk take turns calling, "Come and worship." Oh, visit the earth. Ask her to join the dance. Deck her out in spring showers. Fill the God River with living water. paint the wheat fields golden. Creation was made for this. Drench the plowed fields, soak the dirt clods with rainfall as harrow and rake bring her to blossom and fruit. Snow crown the peaks with splendor, scatter rose petals down your paths, all through the wild meadows, rose petals, set the hills to dancing, dress the canyon walls with live sheep, a drape of flax across the valleys. Let them shout, shout, shout. Oh, oh, let them sing. The word of the Lord. So I'll now ask Diane Waddell and Marty Kraft to come up and take their seats. Marty Kraft, it was great seeing him walk in the door this morning. When I came here, Marty Kraft and the Heartland All Species Project was on the second floor of this church. So he was operating out of here over 25 years ago. And he asked, is there still second floor there? And yep, there is. That was another thing we kind of fought for in the rebuild. So it's still here, Marty. And Marty is a leader in the struggle against climate change in our region. And then Diane Waddell is a leader in the both in Heartland Presbytery and in the National Presbyterian Church in the struggle against climate change. She's very involved in Earth Keepers. Is that the correct name? Earth Keepers. So we're glad to have both of you with us this morning. And at this point, I'm going to let you have the microphone. We've had a number of Zoom gatherings, the three of us, to plan for this. And we've thought a lot. And the first question that I want to bring up to both of you is, what is climate change doing right now? What's the danger? Either one of you can start.
Well, I'm a gardener as well, and so we had an 80-degree day about a month ago, and around 80 degrees is when spinach goes to seed, and I hadn't even planted it yet. So that's one thing, and if you can extrapolate from that, you can see that there's a whole lot of imbalance going on, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist that folks of my age can see that it's different than it was when we were kids or even growing up. So it's right here, right now. It's causing people from South America to come to our borders because we have taken so much from them, and they're in turmoil. So, but it was the resources that we wanted, and anyway, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate your hearing that from a gardener's perspective, from a soil perspective. I remember a number of years ago, probably 15 years ago, I was at a nutrition conference in the Midwest, actually in Ohio, and if they consider that the Midwest, there were a number of persons from Canada there, and they were already inviting us to move north to mid-Canada to find a new place to live because they knew the Midwest was going to be hot, drought-ridden, and just not the place where we could continue to raise the current crops that we have to help feed the United States and feed the world. So that was a nice invitation. I keep thinking about that, but I have not taken them up on that. The other thing, of course, that we all see is the disasters are increasing and the unpredictability, not only of those disasters, but the unpredictability of the weather that we normally see, which, of course, in Missouri is unpredictable anyway. But this is really, even for Missouri, very difficult to predict. You can't even get the weather forecast much more than an hour beforehand. I was noting that Natalie and I know a gentleman who is a Native American wise person, and they are so in touch with nature there. They grow up studying the birds and the wind, and they can predict, it has been said, they can predict weather 2 years ahead of time. Whether that is still true, I'm not sure, but when you're in touch with nature and when it's consistent, it's much more beautiful.
Yeah, the direct knowledge is something that the Europeans have lost for sure before they came here, and that's kind of why they railroaded over the people who had wisdom for the land. They'd already discarded that wisdom that they had in Europe. That doesn't mean everybody, but many, many people.
So you mentioned Missouri. In our region, what are one or two significant issues that are related to climate change in this region?
To me, it's the soil. In the soil, in a handful of soil, there are more organisms than there are people on Earth, and we're learning. Our science now is showing us that they talk to one another, and then they act together. They have what they call quorum sensing, and they can sense when there's enough of them, and they can make a decision. Now, I was always taught that there was the only sentient being was the human, and slowly that's been eroded all through my life, and now we're celebrating these little guys in the soil, and I am so taken with it. I cannot tell. I mean, it's the wisdom of this creation. These little guys usher food into the plant in the proper proportion, so that the plant can be healthy. So that when we eat it, not so that, but when we eat it, then we can. You put fertilizer on the ground. We were taught that this was a chemistry set, and it's not. It's biology. It's living things interacting with one another in more harmony than you might think.
Yes, and appreciate that. Again, it's the heating and cooling unpredictably, as well as the drought that we can't see as well because we are generally encased in air conditioning. But humans have continued to generally take more than we really need, so that not only in the Midwest, but particularly in the North, as Marty mentioned, leaving persons in the global South at a disadvantage. We don't see it as much here, but we will.
Marty, you've got a couple, I felt like they were interesting stories from your youth. There's an oil story and a lawn mowing story. Tell us about those.
Well, when I was 16, I had a car, and it was a 50 Chevy, and I can remember wanting to change the oil, and I got the oil changed, and then I had the oil in a pan, and I walked all over our yard, and I looked for a place to dump it, and I couldn't find any place that it wouldn't kill something. And so intuitively, I knew I should not do that. In the house that we lived in previously, there were caked oil places in the driveway where my father had changed the oil. And I didn't want to do that because nothing grew there. So I knew that. I knew it in my gut, I think we know stuff trust yourself, and then do what you need to do, would be my thought. And then, what was the other
The
story?
lawn mowing.
Oh, the lawnmower. I used to, a little bit older, I started mowing lawns for money, and I would run the lawnmower over the grass, and I would see clouds of insects coming up. And I thought, well, I'm chopping those little guys to pieces, at least some of them that get hit by the blades. And I'm saying, you know, how tall is grass supposed to be? The city says it's supposed to be 11 inches or 10 inches. Well, wait a minute. What did grass say, you know? I mean, we just never put ourselves in the position of the other. There is no other. But we've constructed other. You know, that's the, well, I don't know. I could go on and on. So I finally let my yard grow and go. And it's called the Urban Wilderness. You can find it online, or you can drive by 57th and Charlotte and see it. It's not perfect. It's not all natives. I've got some invasive stuff that has been there. So anyway, I want to respect nature. I want to listen to it. I want to deepen my capacity to be in communication with it, in direct communication with it, like you were talking about with the Indians. You know, I think that is accessible. You know, we're humans. We still got that capacity. And we could shift this whole thing that we're surrounded by.
Well, so you're talking about listening to nature, and you've actually got, or listening to the earth, and you've actually have a name for the earth. Is it Gaia? Is that how it's pronounced?
Gaia is usually
Gaia.
the pronunciation.
What do you mean when you name the earth Gaia?
Yeah, I love the term Gaia, and actually Gaia comes from both Greek and Roman mythology, and it really meant I am earth, I am taking care of the earth. And we have translated that with a number of cultures, a number of religions. Pachamama, from the South American term that we've heard a lot of, and that movement continues today. And I know this congregation, which I appreciate so much, interacts and intersects with Native Americanism. Spider grandmother is their Gaia, their term for Gaia. So in a sense, as we all know, we recycle, our bodies are recycled, recirculated, all of us, every sentient being, every rock, which can be even considered a sentient being. That's another beautiful term. Gaia is a sentient being. That's the term, that's the wonderful question that we all need to look into. Gaia is a living being. Gaia is full of relationship. Everything on earth relates to each other. Nature connects with nature. Nature knows nature. And just like those microbes that Marty was talking about, same is true of bacteria. They live for each other. They don't live for their self, for their individuals. They will automatically self-destruct if they think the community is in danger. But Gaia is relationship. Gaia is earth. And honestly, as we recycle ourselves, we are Gaia. You've heard of the term, we are earth, we are Gaia. And I love that. Not only, the outer shell, but within us, we are earth. Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, we can sense that. The degree to which I can sense it is when I look at you. I know these are nodes of consciousness that are looking at me and are hearing me, and I'm resonating with you. And you can feel that resonance. and that's what I have come to call presence. And this presence is there in the silence, but it's also there in the space. If you look at the space in this building, I get high when I look at the space. There's something, maybe it's because I can't use any language or words, and I drop into the space. But the space is real, and to me, it's around, I mean, we find it in beauty. We find it all over the place, but mostly the noise and everything is overpowering it. And if we dig under, just dig under my words, you know. My words are just jabber. But underneath that, you can hear the silence still in this room. And this silence will be here long after we're gone. Silence is infinite. And so is space, you know. I want to hang out with the infinite stuff.
That's going to be our quote for today. I want to hang out with the infinite stuff. You used the word presence here, but you've also, both of you have really focused on the word reverence as we've been talking over the last couple of months. Reverence and earth rights. Can you talk about reverence? What does that mean with respect to the earth?
Well, reverence for me is I don't beat my heart. I didn't breathe myself all night. My kidneys were working. My liver was working. Billions of processes are going on in my body that I have nothing to do with it. All I get to do is watch. And I don't have the intelligence to do that. The intelligence that it takes to do all that for each of you, and then for every blade of grass on the earth, and every tree, and every snail, and every cockroach, it's all, I don't know where it comes from. People say it's automatic and dismiss it, but I want to reverence it. And to me, that's where the reverence comes from is, man, I'm just, you know, I could be wiped. I'm a piece of meat, you know. If I died here, I'd be rotten in 2 or 3 days, and it'd make a big stink. It's not, I mean, what's keeping this piece of meat alive? I don't know. That's the mystery, the big one.
Yeah, I love the mystery part as well. I love the cosmic part as well. And it took 6.4 billion years for us to get to this point where your liver and your lungs, our livers and our lungs are functioning that way. I first thought about the term reverence in this particular context, in a sense, because of Paul Hawken's book, Regeneration. And in his book, which is his second book after Drawdown, he intimates that the only way we're really going to get anywhere in saving this beautiful planet is reverence. It's not going to be, even though I highly admire scientists, it's not going to be a scientist here and a scientist there saying we're going to do certain things. It's our ability, our love as human beings, our respect and compassion for this beautiful earth, for each other. Again, we are the earth, our compassion and our love for the earth. One of the wonderful books I came across recently after I had heard a wonderful Native American woman from Lawrence, Kansas speaking recently, was N. Scott Momaday, who wrote a book called Earthkeeper. And in it he said, I am an elder and I keep the earth. Wow. And honestly, to me, immediately translated, even though I know, he's a Native American and he is an elder in his tribe, and that is so beautiful. But immediately it translated to me, well, how can we do that? A lot of Presbyterian elders here, but we are all wise people. We all integrate with that wisdom and mystery. We can all be open to that presence, and our hearts can feel that presence, and know that mystery, and know that reverence, the compassion, the love, the connection, the relationship. So that's honoring Earth.
Marty, I've been wanting to ask somebody for a long time, and I finally asked you in one of our dialogues. What about the change in terminology? I know, words are important. What about the change in terminology from global warming to climate change? What do you think about that? Because that has occurred in the last number of years.
Well, I think it's probably a form of greenwashing. I mean, we're going to call it climate change because it's more palatable. Well, I don't know how extinction can be palatable. I don't know whether I can taste it. I will taste it at some point when I'm terminated. I don't know. It just seems a little bit like greenwashing to me.
And so you actually prefer keeping the
I use them back and forth. It depends on what I'm feeling when I'm writing, or talking. Climate change is true. That's really what's happening. But we're getting toasted too, and saying it outright. People don't like death. I don't know why, but Ram Dass was talking about it, and he said, he was channeling somebody, and he says, just tell them it's harmless.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that subject?
Well, to some extent, I mean, and to even a larger extent, I agree. You have to hear what your audience is saying. I will say that in the community where I live and have tried to make a difference with our city, and making resolutions and regarding decreasing global greenhouse gases in the city, I was told by a previous city manager, well, don't use the word climate change. We did anyway, but there is a certain group of persons that would rather hear the word conservation to remedy the situation. So you have to speak to a person's audience, to your audience, and we all come from different backgrounds and have different ways of thinking. But yes, absolutely, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about healthy soil, because that's something that you have really become focused on. I know.
Yeah.
Recently.
Thank you.
Wherever there's soil, farms, lawns, home gardens.
Well, I think it's. I've taken to promoting a Johnson-Sue, S-U. Johnson is a PhD scientist, and his wife, Sue, S-U, she's Chinese, so that's her last name. So anyway, they've created a fungal, a compost that makes fungal dominant. Whereas most composts are anaerobic and they kill all the fungus, and some will survive, but they give you a bacterial soil. And what we need is a fungal soil. This fungus has these hyphae that reach out through the soil. There are miles and miles of them. In a cubic yard, there's probably enough to go around the Earth twice. And that's all carbon, and that came out of the atmosphere where the CO2 is causing heating. So what I'm trying to do, and a group of us are getting together, and we're talking about making the soil healthy again, healing the soil, healing the earth. And so we're tossing around different ideas about that, and we've just gotten a grant funding 3 gardens or farms, Casey Farm School over in Kansas City, Kansas, Sankara Farm, which is out towards Lotawana, and the third one is Antioch Urban Growers, which is north of the river. And we're all getting microscopes, and we're all going to learn who the players are, and we're all going to reverence nature. We're going to reverence the little guys in the soil that are, the sun is there taking, and the leaves are out there absorbing that energy and taking carbon out of the soil. So we've got trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of microbes all over the earth, and they're willing to do this because that's their style. They want to do that. So what we need to do is stop putting poisons on our soil and learn how to go back to what our grandparents knew, and how, because there wasn't any war where the chemical companies gained ascendancy and then had a lot of money left over when they didn't have to use their products and sell it to the agriculture people. So it turned our soils into chemistry sets, as I said earlier. And so what we need to do is get back to what nature does. And you've observed nature. You know a lot about it already. But there's a lot out there on regenerative agriculture is how it's called. And you can look up this Johnson Sioux stuff. There's a guy named Walter Yenny in Australia, and he has a way of putting science together, little points of science, and showing how the soil is actually can fit into into the climate change because it holds water, and water is 95% of what climate is made of. 95, and carbon dioxide is only 5. So if we could manipulate the soils in a different way, not manipulate them, that sounds like I'm trying to, but to be with them and make them healthy. That's it in a nutshell.
And I do appreciate our Jim Turner's working on that same Johnson Sioux project. There's a program coming up called Get the Dirt on Soil, which I appreciate. And I love the Midwest and your work and like the Land Institute's work on planting native trees, grasses, and planting perennials instead of annuals, and not just a uniform cult, but a diversity of types of plants together. That's what nature is really asking for.
Yeah, there's a movement afoot to do yard makeovers, and one of the things will be to do food forests, where you turn your yard into a food forest, and in following ecological parameters. And so Missouri Organic Composting is involved with this, and Mannheim Community Gardens is involved with this, and we all meet once a week on Zoom, and we generate ideas, and a lot of this stuff has come out of our meetings. So we're trying, wherever 2 or more are gathered, there's the juice. And Margaret Mead, what is it, the quote? Don't say that a small group of people can't make change. They're the only ones that can, or only ones that ever have, is a small group. So don't count yourselves out. Find your own group and do it. Or, please. My grandchildren want this for you, for me, for you, for us.
So I want to move to a close with, one other thought. And our spiritual pioneer, Jesus, gave us I think, a significant instruction when he said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." And you have both found a translation of that, which I find illuminating. Mourning, the sense of those who long deeply for something to occur. So I wonder if you could begin our closing by talking about mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, as you connect it to global warming or climate change.
I was introduced to the Aramaic translation of the Bible, particularly the New Testament, through a Sufi Muslim in a class that I took. And it was so beautiful, particularly, for example, starting with the Lord's Prayer, which is so deep and actually so earthy. The Aramaic translations that Jesus spoke are very earth-related, very love-related, very connectional related. And so as we long deeply, as we mourn, as we gather together, ideally in this particular case at least, more than one of us, in circle, in community, in earth commons, as those of us gather together to pray, to use our hearts and our minds and our wisdom to say what comes next. We long deeply, and what we long for in earth community, in earth commons, can be human rights, animal rights of all persons, and we are all animals, rights of all sentient beings, democratic participation, we all have equal participation, inclusion, and cooperation. So we mourn for those who don't have that ability to be included, to participate equally, and to have their minds and hearts heard, particularly those persons, a lot of times indigenous persons again in the global south. We need to hear from all cultures who have that deep wisdom. And so part of my mourning is that we aren't able to access that wisdom, but to continue to seek in community that beautiful global wisdom that God has given us the opportunity to seek, in which we can now do.
A year before before this, not global warming, the other crisis, COVID. A year before that, on Nextdoor, the app Nextdoor, I put an announcement out of neighbors, and I tried to pick just my neighborhood in the 4963 area and come together and let's talk about what we can do as a community that's close to one another. What can we do about global warming? Well, we got into grief. We got into grief about the demise of the earth, and so people became raw and open. And in that rawness and openness, I have been doing presence groups for over 50 years, and I saw this presence arise spontaneously as we became vulnerable to one another and the space that we're in. And through that vulnerability, as Joanna Macy talks about, there's power after grief, that when you go through the grief, you ascend. Wow, that's interesting. That happened before, I think. So I think I've made my point.
Okay, for everything that brings Marty and Diane to this moment, for their experience, for their study, for their own reverence that I think allows them to come here and share this. Let's give them, put two hands together. Thank you so much for being with us today. You want this? Sure. Let us lift our hearts and bow our heads for our Matthew 25 prayer. There'll be times when you can offer your own prayers, either out loud or to yourself when I ring the gong. Let us pray. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me water. I was sick and you took me to the hospital. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was an undocumented immigrant and you protected me. I had no winter clothes and you gave me a coat, gloves, a warm hat. Jim Turner. I was discouraged, and you convinced me that I have what it takes to rise up. I had lost a lot in my life, and you showed me what I had left. I was out of answers, and you suggested some new questions. I was feeling alone and lost inside my own head, and you kept me company. Tim Thomas, Marion Thomas.
Connie Benish.
We were migrating birds, and you made a refuge for us. We were migrating people, and you made a refuge for us. We were climate refugees, and you asked us what we needed. We were a forest family of millions of trees, and you kept us breathing. I was the earth, and you began listening to me in all your decisions. Bart.
Natalie. Bonnie.
We were in another crisis, and you managed our crisis again. We needed beauty, and your spirit created art. We needed meaning, and you helped us discover what we really valued. On the other hand, we needed power, and you did everything in your power to stop us. On the other hand, we needed knowledge, and you took away our books. We needed legal protection, and you gave us just that until we were free. You were pulling us out of the river, and then when it kept happening, you went upstream to find out why we were falling in. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We now prepare for our time of morning offering. You can give online or in the offering plate at the back of the sanctuary after the service. Thank you for the beauty and meaning of your music today. We dedicate our offering by means of the Shawnee Traveling Song. Please join with me on the third page of your bulletin. I am walking upon the earth is my mother.
Wherever I walk, I am home.
I am walking with the people who love me. Their love surrounds me.
Wherever I walk, I am loved.
I am walking on the circle of Creator. Creator above, Creator below.
Wherever I walk, I am the Creator.
I am walking upon the earth with people who love me on the circle of Creator.
I am always home.
I am always loved.
I am with Creator.
Our closing hymn is the back page of your insert this morning, Over My Head.
Over
May the sound of the drum awaken us to our deep souls. May the drum beat signal a global awakening. May the drum beat signal a global awakening to the earth's voice. May you love the earth as you love yourself.